Who cares if my suffering isn't actually being felt by me 3 levels up, whatever. If I'm just an avatar for something else, my suffering seems real to me. So who gives a fuck?
Okay, well, I give a fuck. Yeah, I actually care. So that's the difference that I'm trying to point out, is that whereas for you, kind of,
I'm utilitarian. I care about liberty and
it's
happiness.
a flat experience, because like whether or not it's fixed in some real thing or whether we're just brains in a vat, all that's real is like sensorious experience, because so it doesn't really matter. Like
I don't even have data to work with. I can't draw conclusions on what the supernatural context of my existence is.
Well, I think
All
you're
I
giving
can
up
do
too quickly. I don't think you've tried enough. But that's exactly the thing that I do care a lot about, and that I think is actually very important, whether we are in a vat or whether my knocking on this wood actually corresponds to something that I'm actually doing. Because
But that's the thing. Like why? Like I asked you before, what would be different if we are brains in vats, and there is.
have you seen the Truman Show?
Yes, but the Truman Show, like, he had access to that data. He was able to open a door and leave and get the rest of it.
Yes.
He was surrounded by the mountains, and all he had to do was climb, and he could see the rest of the world. But what you're describing is that I'm so confined. Like, I'm physically confined. I'm physically a brain in a vat.
Physically.
There's nothing I could do. This is what you're describing. Isn't the Truman Show? You're not describing something where I have some kind of ability to leave. It's not like there's a portal somewhere where I can go and my brain wakes up and all my memories are re-downloaded back into it. That's not what you're describing. Like, I fail to see how whatever supernatural context there is could affect liberty and happiness. And what Truman was capable of experiencing could affect his liberty and happiness. His liberty was restricted because there was all of this world that he had no ability to go see. Like his position and the natural context of his experience mattered for his liberty and happiness. His experience changed when he moved. But
You're telling me that the question of whether my life is meaningful or not in the end doesn't bear on my liberty and happiness.
no, whether your life is meaningful, I don't know why you're bringing meaningful into it. Like you're saying whether or not your life projects onto some other plane of existence. That's what you're really asking about.
Yes.
You're asking if there's another plane of existence tied to this one.
Yes.
And I'm asking you, well, what if that one isn't tied to any other one? Like you can't displace meaning onto some other plane of existence. When you get to that plane, you'll just be displacing it again.
You don't know that.
You have to find meaning in the plane of existence that you've been founded. Well, I mean, doesn't it stand to reason? Why would that plane of existence confer meaning and this one fails to? What's meaningful about that plane of existence?
Well, we don't know anything about that. Well, I think I have my thoughts on what that plane of existence is, but in this conversation, we haven't established really anything about that plane of existence. So,
well, then why operate on that like basis? Why operate on the basis that plane of existence is the one that actually confers all the meaning? You just
I'm not saying that. We're not assuming that. The only thing that I'm pointing out so far is that for both you and I, we are epistemologically not comfortable with this being the only plane of existence. Even you yourself are like, yes, this could all just be a lie. Whatever. It's just I'm just experiencing things, so I can get along with it. I can be okay with that ambiguity of not knowing whether this is just an illusion.
I'm saying like the meaningfulness of this plane of existence stands on its own, and isn't
really.
inherited.
It stands on its own. Doesn't this conversation prove that it doesn't stand on its own?
The liberty and happiness of the people found on this plane of existence isn't only meaningful because there's some other plane of existence that it's projecting upon. I don't care if it's projecting on 1,000,000 or 0. I don't care what other outside observers are getting from our experience here. Who cares?
What you're doing is you're asking me, and now I'm going to make a move. Like, so this thought experiment that we did, I consider that a data point. I consider that the mind's...
Well, it's not an observation. It's just an analysis of abstraction. Like we're just thinking of abstraction.
Sure, abstraction. Still, it's a data point, and it's in that data point I realize I don't have enough physical evidence to prove that, for example, I'm actually approaching something real. I can only prove that I'm approaching something real according to my own senses, which for me is not satisfying. So if that is a data point of like something that threatens my existence, is like whether this is real or not, ultimately, you're telling me that on this plane of existence, you should just ignore that data point and just get along with the happiness that's like here in front of you, and don't think about that. Don't think about that thought experiment.
Well, you can think about it all you want, but you're never going to be able to make progress because you can't make any traction because
really? Okay, now you just made a metaphysical promise.
There's no data to observe and interpret.
Oh, really? Okay. I think that we have a lot of data. I think we started...
If there was data, then it would be natural. Then it would be data about the natural world. You know,
but that's...
like there's all sorts of invisible forces affecting the world today. But if they have quantifiable, observable impact, then they're natural. You know, supernatural is definitively stuff that is not part of the observable natural universe.
So you're saying that you have no feelers, as it were. You have no sense, nothing to figure out what's true and what's not true, unless it manifests itself physically or in some material way. As we defined earlier.
If I'm sensing it, it's part of the natural world.
That's not true. We just sensed that we cannot wrap our fingers around like this plane of existence. We can't prove that it's actually real or whether it's illusion. You've sensed that, but that's not a material sensing, is it?
No, I'm imagining something.
Okay.
I'm imagining the Matrix, and I'm imagining a hypothetical person or something that appears to be a person, which is entirely controlled as a in a sub universe of another one, where they are completely cut off from information about that super universe. And I can use that metaphor or that imagination or my imagination or whatever to imagine what it would seem like from the perspective of that being.
Okay.
And what? Like it I don't need a I would even hesitate to say that I'm not making use of data. Like I'm making use of stories that I've seen. I'm making use of my own interpretation of experiences, and even what my imagination is reshuffling experiences that I've had into configurations that I haven't actually experienced. Like I can imagine you meeting my ex-girlfriend. That never happened, but I know you as an element, and I know her as an element, and I can imagine how it's going to go. Like my imagination is still making use of my observations of the material world. So me, imagining the entire universe and imagining something about, like, that's still not an observation of anything. I'm still not observing anything. I'm reshuffling other things that I've seen to produce this kind of imagined version of what something might be.
Let's think about that for a moment.